What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Forgotten Jesus podcast. My name is Andrew. With me today, of course, I don't know why I always introduce you guys, is Robbie Galdi.
It's 3 seasons and 13 episodes.
Well, this might be here. This might be somebody's first time with us. So anyways.
Okay, go ahead. Introduce us again.
Okay, this is Pastor Robbie Galdi and Candy Galdi. Okay, anyway, so Pastor, today, are we getting into the dreams of Joseph?
We promised we were,
but
we're not.
Oh my goodness.
No,
okay.
we should never promise.
Well, yes. Well, we never know where we need to go until we spend time and think about it. And I realize we have to understand what's happened up to this point, chronologically. So we have to go from Matthew to Luke, which is a good jump.
Yeah, no, that's good.
It's a good jump. So go with me to Luke chapter 1.
I just love that we're officially like reading verses.
Scripture. Yeah, we're actually into the Word today. We've been in the Word for a while, but we're actually going to just systematically, expositionally, exegetically.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
You got any other words that we're going to do? Chronologically.
Hypothetically.
Hopefully no hypotheticals.
We're not doing any hypotheticals here, but hopefully literal translation. Okay. Let me set up this time. This is the first, in a sense, if you look at it chronologically, this is the first account of the working of God since the silence of Malachi, remember, 400 years ago.
Yeah.
So chronologically, this starts the coming of the Messiah. We're going to study about Zechariah and Elizabeth, and I'm telling you, there are so many connections, Andrew, from Old and New Testament. It's going to blow you away. So, Candy, I want you to read Luke chapter 1, verses 5 through 7.
Okay. In the days of King Herod of Judea, there was a priest of Abijah's division named Zechariah. His wife was from the daughters of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth. Both were righteous in God's sight, living without blame, according to all the commands and requirements of the Lord. But they had no children because Elizabeth could not conceive, and both of them were well along in years.
Okay, so right away, we're looking for clues in the text, okay? Let's just go to the last part Candy read. When you hear of Zechariah and Elizabeth, a couple who are childless in the New Testament, what do you think of, or who do you think of in the Old Testament that were in a similar situation?
Hannah.
Go back further.
Sarah.
Sarah and who?
Abraham.
Sarah and Abraham. Who's the next one you think about? You think of who? You said it.
Hannah.
Hannah and who? What's the husband's name? You remember the husband's name?
Hold on. Don't
Andrew,
tell me.
pop quiz.
What does he start with?
E.
Okay.
That's what they need.
It's
this is a hard pop quiz question.
Oh man.
Elkanah.
It was right there.
Andrew, I'm
It's on
sorry,
the tip
you had
of
it.
your tongue.
You had it. Okay. And Elkanah and Hannah had a son named who?
Samuel.
I want you to notice the similarities right out the gate between Samuel and who?
John the Baptist.
John the Baptist.
Ooh.
Now, remember, one of the themes of all of these guys is to prove that Jesus is the son of who? David.
So from the line of David.
Yeah, or in the character of David, of the quality of David. Son of means likened to. Yeah, a likeness to. Okay, so Samuel, you ready for this, is a what?
Son of.
No, he's a prophet. He's a prophet. And the prophet is the forerunner to King David. What does Samuel do in the backyard when he's looked at all the brothers? He's like, do you have anybody else? Yeah, we got David. He's hanging out with sheep in the back. Okay. I don't think it's an accident that Samuel anoints David, or he's the forerunner to David from parents who were barren. You got to see these connections. I mean, they're there. We just miss them. Here we have Elizabeth and Zechariah, who will have a son named John the Baptist, who will, in a sense,
be the
anoint, affirm, give away the ministry, prepare the way for the ministry of Jesus, the son of David, the son of God, the king of the world. Okay, so I think right there we see. One of the things, too, I have this note in here. It says whenever you see in the Bible a story of a couple who's barren or childless, and they miraculously conceive, it basically is like cluing you to the idea of the emphasis that this child's destiny will be miraculous. This child's destiny is for some great purpose. So normally when you see it like, the child, they're barren, they haven't had a child, it's like, okay, hold on, because something amazing is about to happen. Okay, so let's get into the text. One of the things we learned right away is verse 5. Okay, so we're going to start in verse 5. And if you have a Bible, you can follow along if you're in one of our study groups.
Ooh, that's right.
Yeah,
you'll be Jesus groups.
You'll be doing a lot of studying this week in a good way. Okay, so let's take it first. In the days of King Herod of Judea. Okay, what does that mean?
It means it's the days of King Herod.
That's exactly right. The days of King. No, it's putting Jesus and John in a time period historically. Okay. So right away we see King Herod was a real person historically. We can study that. In the time of King Herod, he's coming. Okay. Now, there's going to be a contrast we're going to see in a few weeks that King Herod is going to be contrasted with King Jesus. And we're going to notice the shift when we get to the wise men bringing the gifts in a couple weeks, but we have to hold on for that. Okay. There was a priest of what division? Abijah. Okay. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Abijah. Do you know much about Abijah, Andrew?
I know nothing about Abijah.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Well, but that's why I'm here, because I don't know anything.
That's why you're here.
That's what people say
Okay.
in the comments. I'm glad Andrew doesn't know anything either.
No. You ask good questions. You really ask good questions. Okay. Abijah's division. So basically, here's the deal. Let's think of the priesthood this way. They speculate that during the time of Jesus' his birth and John's birth, there were roughly 10,000 priests spread out all across Israel.
Okay.
To be a priest. Now, remember, we talked about this before. You can be a Levite, which you had to be a Levite to be a priest. So you could be a Levite. Remember, the Levites were one of the tribes. They didn't get any land when Joshua came in. But they said, your land and possession is the temple of God, because you're going to serve. Now, you could be a Levite and not a priest. But you can never be a priest
without being a Levite
unless you were a Levite. So you had to have both, okay? There were 10,000 priests spread out all over Israel.
Is this during the corruption priesthood period?
Yes. Okay. Oh, yeah. Sadducean.
Okay.
The sect of the Sadducees has already been established since the mid 1 BC, 100 BCs. Okay. So the Sadducean cult, the sect, the Pharisees, they're all in play here. Okay. So and not everybody's corrupt. Okay. But the top guys are.
Okay.
Annas, Caiaphas, that household, Jason, all those guys coming in. They're the corrupt ones from them. Okay. So basically, you have 10,000 troops, or 10,000 priests. Out of those priests, they were required to serve every year, mandated, 1 week in the spring, 1 week in the fall. Okay, that was their duty to the country.
Okay,
for the rest of their life. Out of that, and then you had to serve 3 more times. You were required.
Serve in the temple.
In the temple.
Okay.
What were the other 3 times? So you had 1 in the spring, 1 in the fall, and you had 3 other times.
So we're all 10,000 serving that one time in the spring and that one time in the fall? Like everybody serving at the same time?
No, they were divided into divisions, which is what the text says. See, I'm giving you contextually what happened. So basically, out of the 10,000, based on the 52 weeks of the year, based on the amount of people they needed in the temple, they divided every one of them into 24 divisions. Okay. 24 divisions times 2. You start to see how this thing works out. Okay. 48. And then the other 3, they had to serve 3. Everybody served 3. You know what those 3 were?
Passover. Easter. I'm just kidding.
Easter.
I'm just joking.
So you're saying they actually served 5 times in a year?
5 times a year. Okay. They serve spring and fall. Then they serve Passover. Why are these 3 times important? These were the 3 festivals that you had to make a pilgrimage back to Jerusalem.
Okay.
If you lived in the land of Israel or were close by, to be a good Torah observant Jew, you were expected to travel back to Jerusalem for these 3 festivals. We know from John the Baptist, his family, and we know from Jesus' family, they were good Torah observant Jews because they went back for and you got to understand, that's not an easy task.
Oh, no.
Imagine if I said to you, you have to go to Disney World every year.
I've never been to Disney World.
Really?
Yeah.
You're not missing
I'm like,
much.
how can I afford this?
You're not.
For
Well,
a family of 5. You know what I'm
too many
saying?
kids, Jay. Too many kids.
I'm trying to help make. The
You're not
point
missing
here.
anything. I promise.
Am I not?
I'm
Okay.
playing.
And
Candy loves
and
it.
I get like
So
super
good.
nauseous. Like anytime I get on a ride.
Really?
Oh, yeah,
So
me
you're
too.
like
Bad.
him. You
Me too.
can't do rides.
Well,
I got
No, I
something
can't.
for you, by the way. It's
What's
called
that?
the TheraBand.
oh,
by the way.
Well,
okay.
yeah,
Send
but-
me the link.
This could
We'll
go
get
off.
the TheraBand in the show notes.
I think it's the TheraBand. No, it's not a TheraBand. It's not a TheraBand. It's called something like that. Robert, look it up for us. It's actually, Robert knows this. It's a shocking device.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
you
shocking.
said you would
Shocks the
never
vagus
ride a ride
nerve.
again. You said you would never
Well-
ride Guardians of the Galaxy again.
Well, Guardians, this is a whole nother discussion, but Guardians of the Galaxy, we went this year with the boys. I had the band on.
Right.
And it just did me in.
Do you fit in these rides, by the way?
Number one is I couldn't
Some.
fit well.
Yeah.
Number
Some.
two is the ride actually, the car
best ride
spins you
ever.
around.
Oh, I can't do it.
So like I like to brace in like corners, but when you brace, the ride is riding you around. But when
Right.
you brace, the whole car like leans down, so there's no bracing.
It's
And number three,
amazing.
it's in the dark with like animatronics. And so I suffer from motion sickness.
Mm.
So it's like the perfect blender of lights and sounds that just
Right.
when I got off, this is true. I got off and looked at Candy, expecting Candy to say, "We'll never do that again," which is what I was thinking. I looked at her and she said, "What'd you think?" And she said, "Wasn't it good?" I said, "I don't know if good is the word I would use." And I said, "What do you think?" She said, "I want to ride it again." And I said to her, "I need to sit down for 10 minutes," which I did. I had to sit on the curb and compose myself because it had messed me up somewhat. But anyway,
What was the point? of all that?
imagine
Yeah, that was
imagine
good. Oh, it's if
having
you had
to
to
go
go
to
to
Disney World.
Orlando.
Okay, here's
Right,
the
right.
point. You hit the point. It's expensive.
Right.
It's long.
Right.
It takes time to get there. You have to prepare. You have to go away. It's not easy, and it costs money.
Mm-hmm.
They had to do that three times a year.
Wow.
Okay, so it was a big deal, big commitment. So they were a part of this division, 24 divisions that had to come in,
Okay.
10,000 people divided up into 24 divisions. And when they would get there, they still had a lot of people. They divided them into 7 groups the week of because it was just too many people.
Oh, wow.
You
ahead.
didn't finish telling us the 3 that they had to.
Oh,
spring, fall, and then 3.
Passover,
Trump.
Pentecost.
No.
No, not Tabernacle. Passover, Pentecost, and what's the big one in the fall? The Day
Of Atonement.
of Atonement. Yeah. So you had
Okay. So those were the 5.
I think it's the Day of Atonement.
And
Is it
those-
Tabernacles or Atonement, Robert? You got me.
Those.
I'm pretty sure it's. I think I'm pretty sure. Let's fact
Wouldn't that be
check
something
that,
if I was
Robert.
right?
You might. I don't think you're right, but
Okay. So while you're looking that up, so what
I
you're
just wanna make
saying
sure I'm
is
right.
the priests, no
Shavuot.
matter.
No, I was right. No, Shavuot. Sorry, Sukkot, Pesach, which is Passover, and Shavuot, which is the Feast of Tabernacles.
Shut up! I was right.
That was rude, Candy. Let's
Sorry.
not tell people to shut up. We don't use
Yeah,
that word
we
on
don't
the
use that
podcast.
word in this podcast. We don't tell people to shut up.
Well, I just meant like.
What is he
Who's
calling me?
calling
I
you?
don't know what he's calling me. I'm in the middle of a podcast. Sorry.
Did you just hang up on him?
Yeah, I just hung up. He's trying to call me. Adam
text
French
him.
is calling me in the middle of the podcast.
He doesn't know.
I know, but I told him. Okay. I don't know what my phone is ringing for in this podcast anyway. Okay. Here's the point. Sukkot, which is be tabernacle, tent, or booth. Okay. Candy was right on that one. I'm all discombobulated right now. Okay. So here's the point. So they had the 3 festivals, the 2 they were a part of. So she's loving this too, by the way. Okay. So in the division, they come in.
Okay.
When you show up for duty, the way it works is this. You show up with your team. What the day would have been like, I'll just go through. Would you like to go through a day of what it would have been like to get ready for service?
I would love to hear that.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's
now,
what he
and
does.
these priests would have traveled to Jerusalem these 5 times through the year to serve there
Yes.
for their week.
No,
Okay.
they would have. Yeah, they would have
Okay.
traveled 5 times to
No
serve.
matter where they were living in Israel, they came back to Jerusalem to serve their week in the temple.
Yes, that's
Okay.
exactly right. Okay, so when they get there, here's how it works. They basically get ready, and they have to. Now, some people think that Zechariah and Elizabeth lived close by, like close to the Jericho area by the Dead Sea, which makes sense because that's where John will set up shop. So for him, it wasn't really far,
Too far.
And probably the Levites and priests lived close because they had to come back and forth all the time. So that makes sense. So basically, he comes in town. Okay, he's going to have 7 days that he's going to work. And he does this for years. And you got to remember, he's older. So he's probably in his 60s at the time, maybe Older, who knows, okay? He's an older man, 60, beyond childbearing age, obviously. So he's been doing this for a long time. So he comes in, he prepares himself that morning. He wakes up early in the morning. He prepares himself by going in with his garment, just his like night garment. He's going to go into the mikvah that morning, freezing cold, because Jerusalem is on a hill. So it's pretty chilly, and they didn't have heaters in the water. So you got to imagine he's going to ceremonially cleanse himself in the water. He's going to come out shivering. He's going to go into his house, and then he's going to put his priestly garment on. Then he's going to go to the gathering area where they would be eating a breakfast gathering area, and they're going to prepare for duty. Then one of the high priests or one of the guys in the works at the temple, part of the Sadducean cult, would come in and say, or the sect would say, come on, guys, we're going to go ahead for duty. The early bird guys are going to be able to put and cast lots for service that day. And some of the lots would be better than others. Like one of the choice lots right out the gate, early morning every day, was to go climb and ascend the altar, the golden altar, which was outside, which is basically a big barbecue pit, okay? They would ascend the ramps of the altar, the 2-story ramps, pretty big altar. They get to the second story, and they would shovel out the ashes. Okay, that was a pretty big deal. Why? Because this is the golden altar. This is where the animals were sacrificed. This is where the acceptance from God. So that was a pretty big. So they cast lots for the first round, and Zechariah that day says, didn't get it. Sorry. You guys go back. Then what they would do is they would walk around the property. They would make sure everything's intact. After they would come back, they would have the second round of duties. Now, you got to understand, how did they get ready for duty in the temple? How do you know if you're gonna shovel salt that day, which nobody wanted to do?
Salt?
Yeah, you would shovel salt in the salt bins. Did you know about this?
I didn't know about this.
What do they need salt for?
Preservation?
They don't have fridges, so it's salt. So they salt for the animals. Okay, so that's one of them. Some people trimmed the wicks for the menorah, which was a little better job. Some people prepared the oil for the lamp. Some people baked the bread. These are good jobs. But the choice jobs were some of the best, okay? What are some of the choice jobs, Andrew?
Shoveling coal. That's just the only one you said that I know.
No, shoveling coal. Shoveling
Ashes.
coal. No, shoveling coal would be good.
Yes, see?
Because, but shoveling coal and then preparing the coal to burn the incense was another good thing. Because you had to take this hot coal and you would bring it in and put it in the altar of incense. So that was a good one.
Okay.
What's another one?
I don't know.
Well, you've already said.
Changing the oil out in the menorah lamps.
Okay, I was about to say. I thought
Okay,
you
the
already said
menorah
that,
lamps, which would be on the left when you walk in. Okay. On the right is presenting the table of bread on the quote table of showbread. Okay, but the choice, the closest you could get to God as a priest outside of the high priest was one job. Now, here's what you have to understand about these jobs. The choice jobs, the top jobs, you could only do one time in a lifetime.
Oh, wow.
That's it. And when you did it, you could never do it again.
Wow.
Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Okay. Kenny, you got a question?
I do.
Okay.
I don't want to make you lose your train of thought, but
Okay, no, that's fine.
the division. So Zechariah is part of the division of Abijah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go. You want to read
How
about
many
it? First
people were
Chronicles
in
24.
that division? How many people were in a division, or is it different?
Let's go. Let's read the text. First Chronicles 24, verse 10 is the way it's set up.
And then I want to know how many priests like Zechariah were in the division. Like if the division was made up of 20 people,
Well,
would there have been
it's
more?
24 divided by 10,000.
24 divisions. So that's how many.
About-
so his
we'll do the math
division
on that.
means that there would have been a group of. His whole division would have been serving that week. Correct?
His whole division would have been serving that week?
Abijah.
Yeah. He serves with a division.
Okay.
Yes.
So hundreds.
Hundreds.
And they're all in there.
416.
But how many priests
416,
are
yeah.
in that division? Like Zechariah is what I'm saying. Because he's chosen by lot to do what he does.
He just said 416 priests.
In that one division.
Yes.
0.6. So
Wow.
there's
Yeah.
a short
Now watch this. You ready for this? Why are we making a case for this? You're going to see. These same now priests come and go. They die off and are born into genealogically. However, this is the point I'm making. This is the same group of 400 guys that this man has been serving with for 50-something years.
Right.
They know a few things about this man that they're going to hold as a stigma over his head.
Right.
You're going to get there in a second.
Yeah.
They know that these two things don't compute. We read it. He is a blameless man,
Right.
which is what the Bible says about
Right.
him. But they didn't think that. Why? Because they're questioning, if you're blameless and right before God, why are you barren?
Yeah.
To be barren and have no kids back
Right.
then
Stigma. It
was
a
to
stigma.
be punished and cursed by God. That's what it meant. That's why through the Bible, when women don't have kids, I'd rather die. Just let me
Right.
die.
So
Wow.
sad.
And by the way,
Well, why did they put that
I think that
stigma
because
on
I have
them?
kids. I'm just saying.
yeah, I know.
So that's
Imagine
just so
I saw a
sad.
guy, a comedian recently. He said, imagine doing an interview for a job as a parent. You're like, hey, okay, we're going to see if you're a good parent, and you're, I got a couple questions about it. How much is the pay? Actually, no, you're going to pay for 18 years. Okay. And by the way, you're only going to be they'll only be your friend for about 13, 14.
Right.
Then they're going to turn on you. It's like, yeah, the pay is, you're going to pay actually. But anyway, okay. So your question again before we move on?
I then forgot.
Okay, good. So what we're going to do is so 10,000 people, 416 priests, they're all together. Now, on this day, they go through the walking, they hand out the other jobs. We're going to shovel the salt, we're going to do this. And then they do the final selection for the best of the best, which is burning the incense at the altar of incense. Now, you got to remember, inside the holy place, so hopefully we could Robert's going to put right now a picture of the temple and the furniture. And remember, we haven't talked about this a lot, but think of the temple and the tabernacle as the house of God, which is what it's called, Beit Adonai. Beit, house of Adonai, Lord, house of the Lord. That's what they call it, the Beit Adonai. Think of the house of God, the temple, as a big house for obviously a big God, but it mirrors, you ready for this, our homes in the community. Yeah. Just like the people had a home surrounding the temple, God has a home. And if you have a home, you'll have furniture in the home. Think about this. God built the temple and the tabernacle with furniture.
Yeah.
When you walk into the tabernacle, the first thing you see is a bronze laver to wash your hands because you have a sink. Then, I'm sorry, not the first thing. The first thing you see is the altar to sacrifice.
Right.
Before you go into the tent or the temple, that's the bronze laver where you wash your hands.
Yeah.
So you have a barbecue pit for grilling food, right? Think about it simplistically. Then you have a bronze laver. Then you go inside the temple or the tabernacle and you have 3 pieces of furniture. Andrew, can you name them from memory?
No. One.
You got 'em.
Table of showbread.
Ooh, yeah.
Is that one?
Very good. Yep.
Yeah.
That's one.
That's one.
Okay.
What's another one?
2, the ottoman of. I don't know.
Ooh,
I have
The,
no idea.
the ottoman of appreciation.
Yeah.
The menorah.
The menorah. Okay, what
So
is that
the
a
light.
picture of?
Okay.
The light of Jesus being the light of the world.
Okay.
And what do we
So
have in
candles.
this light? What
Yeah,
do we
we
have
have
in this room?
light
We have
bulbs.
lights. It's
Right.
interesting. When you see this, it makes sense. Okay, the third thing. So you have the barbecue pit. You have the sink. You have a light, a lamp. What else do you have?
The altar of incense.
Yeah, but that's the last one we're going to get to. What is the next one?
Showbread.
To the right. To the right. Oh, no, the right's showbread. To the left is menorah. Right. And then the altar of incense. Okay. And then finally, I'm confused. I'm trying to do 2
Second
things at
time
once.
I'm right today.
Yeah, I'm blaming
I
it
did
on
study
you,
this too, love.
Oh, did you?
A long
Okay,
time
good.
ago.
Yeah. Candy this morning, she's like, why do you need to get to the office so early? I said, babe, because I've got to study for the podcast. I thought you knew all this stuff. I said, no. I've got to study like hours to get prepared. It may not look like we're studying, but there's a lot of preparation goes into this. But anyway, apparently Candy studied too this morning.
No, I didn't. Not this morning.
Years ago.
Years ago, I
So
studied
you're
about
just
the
correcting me
tabernacle.
off the
and-
cuff. Okay. So anyway, back to what we're saying.
Sorry.
So he gets they get selected. Okay, so the last place is that we're so off today on different day. Okay, the incense is the choice place. Why? Because the incense is basically perfume. It's basically aroma in a home. Okay, so it's this aroma.
Fragrance.
It's a
Yeah.
fragrance. Now, why did they need this fragrance? Well, one, because you got to understand, dead animal stench and burnt blood.
Oh, wow.
People said that when you got that smell of the temple, which is a reason, God wants you to smell the stench of sin.
Wow.
Sin has a stench to it. And that stench or that smell of burnt animal and crispy blood, I mean, just, you can't forget.
Blood.
Well, that's what they're burning animals, and then and then dried blood and stale blood. I mean, it's splattered over the altar.
If you think about, I mean, this is kind of off, but if you think about, police officers will tell you, once you've smelled a dead human body, you never forget that smell.
Yeah, true.
And if you think sin brought death into the world, you know what I'm saying?
No, that's true.
So anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so basically, they burnt this incense. Now, the altar of incense is a picture of prayers going up to God. That's what the altar of incense is, by the way.
Right.
As the smoke goes up, the prayers go up to God. And it was the last piece of furniture before that enormous curtain that separated the people from God, or the Holy of Holies, where the Ark of the Covenant was inside. Okay. So you have this Ark of the Covenant inside where the presence of God is. And that's kind of like an interior, if you will, like a bedroom. That's the private area of a person's house, just like your house, God's house.
Right.
Only one person could go into that, which would be the high priest. Okay, so on that day, they cast lots, and would you know, this man, Zechariah, has waited his entire life with a curse on his head,
Wow.
and now he's going to get the choice opportunity to
serve.
burn incense.
Wow.
Now, it could have been any one of those 413. 16.
Yeah.
Any one of those could have been chosen by lot, correct?
Yeah.
To serve.
Well, if they've already done it, they exclude themselves. The high priest would say, all right, if you haven't served in this position, step forward.
But still, it would have been hundreds.
Yeah, it could have been
and
hundreds.
He was chosen.
Yeah, it could have been
but
hundreds.
it could have been any of those people is what I'm saying.
Yes, any of those people. Now, you got to understand the enormity of the task. He gets ready that day. He takes the little, so somebody comes in with the burnt coals, they put him into the place. He's now going to walk in with the incense, which was powder, and a shovel. That's what he's going to walk in there with, a little shovel. He's going to go in there, and he's going to take the incense, and he's going to lay it on top of the burning coals and immediately starts to consume it. Now, at that point, what he probably does is his hand is shaking. You got to understand, and you would be too. You're in there alone. The priest would watch him walk in. Nobody would say a word. He's walking into the temple by himself. Nobody's in there with him. He's going to take this incense, and he knows the barrier between him and the glory of God is separated by a curtain. And you have to believe, you've heard this, that they would, and there's a debate on whether this is true or not. I've gone back and forth. I didn't believe it, now believe it. They would tie rope around the ankles of the high priest and with bells, and so they would listen that if he went in and didn't purify himself before God, God would strike him dead on the Day of Atonement and kill him. So they couldn't go behind the curtain, so they would pull him out of the curtain. Yeah. There's evidence to support either way. Regardless, they knew that the presence of God was not something to play with.
Right.
And they knew God was all-consuming. So basically, they did not want to play with God. So here he is, you have to believe. He's shaking as he's putting the incense on, and the incense is going. I mean, it's an opportunity of a lifetime. Then we have to believe from tradition that he probably would have got on his knees and laid out prostrate on the ground, okay? Prostrate on the ground. Prostrate on the ground.
You should probably not say that word anymore.
He laid flat on the ground.
He always says it wrong.
He
just laid out.
He laid out on the ground.
I'm just visualizing his prostate on the ground.
Yeah, no, it was on the ground, actually. But he lays on the ground. Oh, man, Kenny. You're going to see this. He lays on the ground and basically cries out to God.
Right.
And at that moment, when he probably gets back to his knees, he looks over, and now you have the incense burning. The smoke is probably causing his eyes to water. The only light in the whole building or the whole place are some flickering candles from the menorah, and he looks over, and the angel of the Lord, Gabriel, is standing there. Now, the question is this.
Which doesn't happen for everybody.
Right. And he's thinking, is this normal?
Okay, here's what we have, and we're gonna put this as a cliffhanger because I think we're gonna pick it up next week. But I think we're out of time.
We're definitely out of
Okay,
time.
good. Not good, but here's the thing you got to remember, and here's your homework. Why? Well, number one is, what is the significance of Gabriel showing up? And whenever Gabriel shows up compared to Archangel Michael,
Well,
or the angel of the Lord, what does Gabriel signify? Like, what does he know Gabriel's there? No, you got to wait till next week. What does he know Gabriel's there for? Okay, we'll pick that up, And then we'll see this amazing word from the angel and 6 promises about John the Baptist that are direct connections to the Old Testament.
All right. Well, Pastor, I can't wait. Hey, we hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. If you have, share it with a friend. Man, we love hearing from you as well. So if you can follow us on social media, on Instagram at The Forgotten Jesus. Also, don't forget that in the show notes, you will see a discussion guide where each week you and your friends can get together and just take a deeper dive in a conversation into everything that we have talked about here today. So we appreciate you guys. So glad you joined us. Pastor Candy, thank you so much. And we will see you on the next episode.